This comes to us from, of all places, Bluesky. And Bluesky is taking a stand. Our response to Mississippi's age assurance law. Guys, if you aren't familiar, Mississippi passed a law that is likely unconstitutional, and it is an age verification law in the United States. And this law that they passed requires social media sites to verify and track the ages of every user in the state. Okay? So, with that in mind, this is what Bluesky had to say about this law that passed recently. Keeping children safe online is a core priority for Bluesky. We've invested a lot of time and resources building moderation tools and other infrastructure to protect the youngest members of our community. We're also aware of the trade-offs that come with managing an online platform. Our mission is to build an open and decentralized protocol for public conversation, and we believe in empowering users with more choices and control over their experience, which, again, guys, I have so many thoughts that I disagree with, but I'd be stopping every 3 seconds being like, press X to doubt. No, you don't. Big lies here. I'm just reading through this, okay? We work with regulators around the world on child safety. For example, Bluesky follows UK's Online Safety Act, where age checks are required only for specific content and features. Mississippi, which, by the way, they're trying to act all badass with what's going on in Mississippi. You're following the UK Online Safety Act instead of leaving there because you need to be there more than you want to stand for what's right. That's what that tells me. Mississippi's approach would fundamentally change how users access Bluesky. The Supreme Court's recent decision leaves us facing a hard reality. Comply with Mississippi's age assurance law and make every Mississippi Bluesky user hand over sensitive personal information and undergo age checks to access the site or risk massive fines, which, again, if it wasn't for this Bluesky follows the UK's Online Safety Act line here, I would be like, wow, Bluesky is actually standing up for what's right. But you're not, because if that was the case, why are you following the UK? Why did you not make the same statement there? What's the difference? It's frustrating. The law would also require us to identify and track which users are children, which that's weird. Why would they want that? Unlike our approach in other regions, we think this law creates challenges that go beyond its child safety goals. Well, of course, because it was never about the children. Are they just learning this now? And creates significant barriers that limit free speech and disproportionately harm smaller platforms and emerging technologies, which I would actually agree with that. These laws that are going into effect, they're the massive mega billion and trillion close to companies out there, metas of the world, can afford to do whatever the laws pass, be like, yep, we'll just hire a task force and they'll do it. A smaller company that's trying to build itself right now and then trying to walk the tightrope of red tape that continues to be placed over everything, it's impossible. Why even bother? These are things that these governmental entities don't even consider. They're just like, yeah, we need these laws to go into effect, not considering how it's going to destroy companies that are starting up. Unlike tech giants with vast resources, we're a small team focused on building decentralized social technology that puts users in control. Age verification systems require substantial infrastructure and developer time investments. Again, how were you able to do this in the UK if you're using this excuse here? Very confusing. Complex privacy protections and ongoing compliance monitoring, costs that can easily overwhelm small providers. This dynamic entrenches existing big tech platforms while stifling the innovation and competition that benefits users. I'd agree with all of this, but I keep getting tripped up on how are you doing this and complying in the UK if you're saying you're able to do it over there, but not over here. The only thing that I could maybe give them is the law from Mississippi is just so far overreaching that the expectations are insane, where the UK has more of a streamlined, follow this process, and this is what we need. Hire this company, and they'll do it for you. that kind of thing. We believe effective child safety protocols should be carefully tailored to address real harms without creating huge obstacles for smaller providers and resulting in negative consequences for free expression. That's why, until legal challenges to this law are resolved, we've made the difficult decision to block access from Mississippi IP addresses. We know this is disappointing for our users in Mississippi, but we believe this is necessary measure while the courts review the legal arguments. Here's more on the decision and what comes next. Before I even get to that, this is a massive move to block a site in an entire state, which, by the way, ironically, this is what we're talking about. Regardless of if it's the company doing it or the government doing it, putting these rules in place starts to censor, starts to limit access, starts to block websites, IP bans, blocking them. Like I said, doesn't matter where it's coming from, the company or the government. Either way, it is now not accessible for the users in that state. The World Wide Web is not letting people access a perfectly legal site. It doesn't do anything harmful. It's not peddling PDFs. Well, it is Bluesky, so that actually might be up to debate. But as far as I understand, it's the wokey version of X. And by this happening, it is now limiting the reach of it. Why we're doing this? Mississippi's HB 1126 requires platforms to implement age verification for all users before they can access services like Bluesky. That means, under the law, we would need to verify every user's age and obtain parental consent for anyone under 18. I'm telling you guys, I never thought I'd be cheering on Bluesky, but here I am. This is what needs to happen. If all these mega companies stood up to the government and were like, yeah, no, bro, we ain't doing that. We're just not going to allow you to access our site anymore. Do you know the immense pushback from the people there would be if you wouldn't be able to access your Instagram anymore? If you couldn't log into X anymore? I was going to say Facebook, but who the fuck uses Facebook? But the pushback from people using social media, if these sites stopped allowing access and then blamed the laws of the government, said, sorry, it's just, I mean, there's so much money that they'll lose, but it's almost like if they look further than just what's right in front of their eyes, if they can see the forest or the trees, they would be able to understand that in the grand scheme, they will make far more money by standing up now instead of letting what's happening happen. The potential penalties for non-compliance are substantial, up to $10,000 per user. What? Building the required verification system. I'm telling you guys, this is a coordinated effort for these governmental officials to make money off of backroom deals with age verification companies. I don't have the evidence for it right now, but when it comes out, it'd be like, yes, fucking obviously, that's what's happening. There is no other reason for this. It's not about the kids. It's about the money. It's obvious. It's clear as day, especially when you listen to how they talk about it. Parental consent workflows and compliance infrastructure would require significant resources that our small team is currently unable to spare as we invest in developing safety tools and features for our global community, particularly given the law's broad scope and privacy implications. Our concerns about Mississippi's approach, which again, I can't believe I'm saying this, but shout out to Bluesky for basically calling out the government and saying, yeah, what you guys are doing is not cool, and here's why. While we share the goal of protecting young people online, we have concerns about this law's implementation. Broad scope. The law requires age verification for all users, not just those accessing age-restricted content, which affects the ability of everyone in Mississippi to use Bluesky. Which, here's the thing, by the way, they've been winning so much, these activists, these censorship whores that just keep pushing it everywhere, that they're doing the thing where they're so close to the finish line. Now they just start running and they ruin everything. They're doing that right now. What would have flown is something that is, I would argue, equally as bad. Saying accessing adult stuff. Oh, now you need to verify your age. It's like, no, get this shit out of here. It's the internet. Let the parents parent. Why does the government need to come in and tell parents how their kids are allowed to go on the internet? If I want my kids to access that stuff, I, as a parent, should be allowed. In the great free states of the United States, I should be allowed to do whatever the fuck I want because that's America. That's what we do here. I don't like the government coming into my house and being like, yeah, but we don't let you do that here. We don't let you parent your kids that way anymore. We're going to actually come in and we're going to tell you what you can do and what you can't do. Fuck out of here. Because you know that slippery slope as well, by the way. Barriers to innovation. The compliance requirements disadvantage newer and smaller platforms like Bluesky, which is very true. Imagine if I was starting up a social media site right now and this happened and I was in Mississippi. I'd be destroyed instantly overnight. Competition gets wrecked immediately, which in a weird way makes you wonder about these massive companies if they had concerns about smaller companies and competition coming in and almost wanting this as a way to be like, yeah, we can sustain that blow while these other companies can't. So yeah, bring that privacy stuff in. All these things you need to think about. It's not about the kids. I don't know how many times I have to say this. The law makes it harder for people to engage in free expression and chills the opportunity to communicate in new ways. Privacy implications. The law requires collecting and storing sensitive personal information from all users, including detailed tracking of minors, which this one here is fucking weird. What? let me zoom in here. Where is that? Detailed tracking of minors? Well, that's weird. That's one of those that'll make you pause. Right? Very curious. What we're doing. Starting today, if you access Bluesky from Mississippi, you'll see a message explaining why the app isn't available. This block will remain in place while the courts decide whether the law will stand. How this differs from our approach in other places. Okay, here we go. Mississippi's new law and the UK's Online Safety Act are very different. Bluesky follows the OSA in UK. There, Bluesky is still accessible for everyone. Age checks are required only for accessing certain content and features, and Bluesky does not know and does not track which UK users are under 18. So again, you're hiring a third-party company to do that in the UK, which again goes to the whole, it's about the money with these ID verification companies behind the scenes. That is the next big boom in investments. I'm telling you guys right now, it was AI for a while. Now it's ID verification. That is the big boom right now. That's where all the big money wants to get into because they know that's where this is going. And they want to be on the ground floor to make even more money right now. It's not about the kids. Mississippi's law, by contrast, would block everyone from accessing the site, teens and adults, unless they hand over sensitive information. And once they do, the law in Mississippi requires Bluesky to keep track of which users are children, which that's pretty concerning for every other social media website in Mississippi, that they are keeping track of all the kids. That's a little bit concerning. Other apps on the protocol. This decision applies only to Bluesky, which is one service built on the AT protocol. Other apps and services may choose to respond differently. We believe this flexibility is one of the strengths of decentralized systems. Different providers can make decisions that align with their values and capabilities, especially during periods of regulatory uncertainty. We remain committed to building a protocol that enables openness and choice. What's next? We do not take this decision lightly. Child safety is a core priority. And in this evolving regulatory landscape, which again, coordinated, why is this all happening right now? Nobody has an answer for that, by the way. Anyone you ask is just like, no, it's happening because it's happening. It's like, wait, why is it happening? Why is the rush to save kids happening right now? What is the problem? What happened recently where everyone needs to do this right now? No one ever has an answer for that. We remain committed to building an open social ecosystem that protects users while preserving choice and innovation. We'll keep you updated as this situation develops. And then smaller company, but apparently they're hiring. So there you go. That's Bluesky standing up to Mississippi and taking their services basically offline there until the courts rule, hopefully in their favor. Because at this point, this is insane. This is absolutely insane. And I guess good on Bluesky for standing up against it. Something I never thought I'd say, but here we are. I'll definitely be following up on this to see what happens with it. But for now, I'll leave that one there.